was the impetus behind writing this film? What did you want to say with it?
Well, I really started with just a very small idea to make one little short film, and based on something from my films. I'm basically a documentarian, so that's my sort of natural direction, and so I always base these fictional pieces on something that I'm familiar with, or I experienced, or I know someone that's experienced that, and then I have the freedom to embroider on that, to add fantastic whatever, to develop it and to evolve it. It doesn't have to stay on a truth-based documentary level. It can sort of take off, and that's been fun for me, to have the freedom to not be confined by the documentary format. So the first one was based on a few years ago. I was interviewing an actor in Canada, and this was we were working over Skype, and we were talking to each other, and he was telling me about somebody on location there that was dating his wife on Friday nights, over Skype. And I thought that was such a curious idea, an amusing idea. So I wrote this short piece, and of course it resonated with people, myself and people I know who had family away on locations and so forth. So it's familiar territory to me. And then I wrote this story, and that was it. I finished it way before COVID. So
yeah, I was going to say it has a particular resonance now.
And so now it's like, oh, old hat. I mean, it's not so original, but it still seems relevant. So
what do you see as being the sort of through line through these three different stories?
Well, because there wasn't a real through line, some people advised me, well, you've got to develop the story in the next one, and they all have to be related and connected. And that just wasn't what I was trying to do, or wasn't interesting to me. It didn't happen that way. Each one seemed to be quite separate. So at the end, it seemed like I could put them together into a full-length movie. So my writer, a collaborator, we tried to think of what the underlying theme was, and each one really is speaking to some form of love, love long distance, love over a long period of time, love among friends. That theme of love just kept being visible sort of throughout each of the pieces. So we just ended up saying, well, okay, we're going to call it Love is Love is Love as a kind of glue to hold those three pieces together, which were quite disparate.
Now, as the writer, what scene did you find to be the most challenging to write? And then as the director, which one was the most challenging to direct?
Well, I guess I could say both of those. Most challenging to write and to direct is the longer piece, the Late Lunch, because it sort of had more concepts, more emotional stories, more just more was going on and required more actors. So altogether, that was a more challenging piece, but also maybe more rewarding ultimately, or rewarding in a different way.
Talk a little bit about the selection of the actors for the various roles. What was the process like of finding the right people for these? You've got a lot of different notes to hit with these different roles. What were you looking for in the actors to bring this to life?
Well, I was very dependent on Fred Roos, the casting director, who out of LA, who's cast all of the family's films, Francis's films, Sophia's films, and he's just a remarkable casting master. And he would bring 3 or 4 people for each part, and we would discuss them. And of course, in the last one, we had to find a balance between different personalities, and he was extremely helpful and knew he has a great range of reach of of the different actors. So a lot of it comes down in the final analysis to who's available and finding people who can be in town on those dates and that you're going to shoot. And so it's never just one straight line. You may have somebody in mind and they're not available, but then you find someone else and actually thinking about it, they're even more right for the part. So, it just is a back and forth until it comes together. And I thought the group that we finally ended up with was really a good group.
If you look back on this project 10 years from now, is there a moment in writing or producing or directing the project that'll be the most memorable thing for you about this?
Well, I think the camaraderie and the communion between all the women on the final one was very powerful, and we kind of had a final party together, and just there was such a sort of sense that we'd sort of all been through something together that we cared about, that it was an opportunity to work together with such an interesting, diverse group of talented people that I think that would probably be the most memorable, maybe because it was the largest volume of great talent.